I recently returned from a 10-day civil rights pilgrimage with 27 people from 7 different congregations. We went to 3 different states and stayed in 4 different cities. We began our pilgrimage with a visit to the Whitney Plantation, the only plantation that shares the story of plantation life through the perspectives of the people who were in captivity and enslaved to the wealthy landowners. Although I knew, of course, that slavery existed, on this pilgrimage I saw the depth and the breadth of the evil of enslavement. There were memorial walls engraved with the names and stories of thousands of enslaved people of all ages, some kidnapped in Africa and others born in captivity in the United States, especially after the international slave trade was banned. Listening to and reading stories that described the degree of brutality used to keep people trapped in captivity and subservience was horrifying and heart-wrenching. Those of us on the pilgrimage asked ourselves, how does one have the courage to go on living in the midst of terrible evil? This month on Rhythm and Word, we're turning for inspiration to pastor, theologian, and scholar, the Reverend Howard Thurman, particularly through his book, Meditations of the Heart. Howard Thurman lived from 1900 to 1981. He was the first Black dean of Marsh Chapel at Boston University and co-founder of the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples in San Francisco, California, the first interracially co-pastored church in America. Howard Thurman was no stranger to racial violence. In his book, Footprints of a Dream, he described growing up in the Jim Crow segregated South, where the threat of violence against him and so many people was ever present. He wrote, "I was a very sensitive child who suffered much from the violences of racial conflict. The climate of our town, Daytona Beach, Florida, was better than most southern towns because of the influence of the tourists who wintered there. Nevertheless, life became more and more suffocating because of the fear of being brutalized, beaten, or otherwise outraged. In my effort to keep this fear from corroding my life and making me seek relief in shiftlessness, I sought help from God. I found that the more I turned to prayer, to what I discovered in later years to be meditation, the more time I spent alone in the woods or on the beach, the freer became my own spirit, and the more realistic became my ambition to get an education." The presence of God, which Howard Thurman experienced in meditation and prayer, gave him courage and grounding and centering. It gave him strength and healing. In a meditation in his book, Meditations of the Heart, he wrote, "Courage is not a blustering manifestation of strength and power. Sometimes courage is only revealed in the midst of great weakness and greater fear. It is often the ultimate rallying of all the resources of personality to face a crucial and devastating demand. And this is not all," he continued. "There is a quiet courage that comes from an inward spring of confidence in the meaning and significance of life. Such courage," he said, "is an underground river, flowing far beneath the shifting events of one's experience, keeping alive 1,000 little springs of action." Howard Thurman invites us to have confidence in the meaning and significance of life. Quiet courage comes from remembering this. Listen to his short meditation called Life Goes On. This book was first published in 1976. During these turbulent times, we must remind ourselves repeatedly that life goes on. This we are apt to forget. The wisdom of life transcends our wisdoms. The purpose of life outlasts our purposes. The process of life cushions our processes. The mass attack of disillusion and despair distilled out of the collapse of hope, has so invaded our thoughts that what we know to be true and valid seems unreal and ephemeral. There seems to be little energy left for aught but futility. This is the great deception. By it, whole peoples have gone down to oblivion without the will to affirm the great and permanent strength of the clean and the commonplace. Let us not be deceived. It is just as important as ever to attend to the little graces by which the dignity of our lives is maintained and sustained. Birds still sing. The stars continue to cast their gentle gleam over the desolation of the battlefields, and the heart is still inspired by the kind word and the gracious deed. There is no need to fear evil. There is every need to understand what it does, how it operates in the world, what it draws upon to sustain itself. We must not shrink from the knowledge of the evilness of evil. Over and over, we must know that the real target of evil is not destruction of the body, the reduction to rubble of cities. The real target of evil is to corrupt the spirit of man and to give to his soul the contagion of inner disintegration. When this happens, there is nothing left. The very citadel of man is captured and laid waste. Therefore, the evil in the world around us must not be allowed to move from without to within. This would be to be overcome by evil, to drink in the beauty that is within reach, to clothe one's life with simple deeds of kindness, to keep alive a sensitiveness to the movement of the Spirit of God in the quietness of the human heart and in the workings of the human mind. This is, as always, the ultimate answer to the great deception. There is a lot going on in our world and our country right now. We are at an inflection point. How are we going to act? What are we going to do? Where can we find our connection to the strength and power of God, who has created each of us as beloved sparks of God's own being? Howard Thurman reminds us that there is within us an inner spring, an underground river of courage. It's strong and stable, and no one can take it from us. It's the source of holy love. It's the light of God's Spirit within us. Howard Thurman invites us to enter holy silence to find that courage. Enter prayer to remember it. We are not alone. As Thurman says, keep alive a sensitiveness to the movement of the Spirit of God in the quietness of the human heart and in the workings of the human mind. Have courage.
You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in foreign lands, and all will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. If you pass through raging waters, in the sea you shall not drown. If you walk amid the burning flames, you shall not be harmed. If you stand before the power of hell, and death is at your side, know that I am with you through it all. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. Blessed are your poor, for the kingdom shall be theirs. Blessed are you who weep and mourn, for one day you shall laugh. And if wicked men insult and hate you, all because of me, blessed, oh blessed are you. Be not afraid. I go